In this video, I'm going to rank every single Chapter 2 season of Fortnite from worst to best. We've already done Chapters 3 and 4, and the next most popular chapter for me to rank was Chapter 2, so that's why we are doing this video today. These are all 8 seasons that were featured in Chapter 2 of Fortnite. Of course, I will be mainly ranking these seasons on their gameplay because, I just believe good gameplay is the most important part of a Fortnite season, but in the back of my head, I'll be taking into account things like battle passes, new locations, etc. If you do go on to enjoy this video, consider leaving it a like using code TYFRYZ in the Fortnite item shop when you get the chance, and check out the video where I ranked every season in Chapter 3 and 4 of Fortnite. With that all being said, let's get right into this video. Oh man, you all knew it was coming. The worst season in Chapter 2 is by far Chapter 2 Season 6 at my number 8 spot today, guys. I have been so outspoken for the time that I have been on social media about how much I genuinely dislike Chapter 2 Season 6. Like, hate is not strong enough of a word for how badly I dislike Chapter 2 Season 6. And look, I've said in videos before, I think there are some decent things here, right? I think weapons like the Primal SMG are really good and would be good in seasons other than Chapter 2 Season 6. I think the crafting mechanic was a good idea, just very poorly executed, right? It's too much work for me to go out and, have to break a car and then collect the mechanical part and then get the right weapon and then craft it into a pump shotgun when all I had to do in the previous season was just open a chest and it would be there for me. It just feels like too much unnecessary work. I didn't care for the battle pass. I didn't care for any of the new additions. I didn't care for any of the map changes. And especially, I don't really care about the wildlife, which was a big deal when this was added. It's just nothing in this season hit the mark for me. I think a lot of people watching this video will probably agree that this was the worst Fortnite season of all time, or at least a bottom 3. I also hated they did bows instead of snipers. I love snipers, right? There's like 2 good things about this season for me, and that's the mechanical shockwave bow and the primal SMG. So, you know what? I've spoken my piece on Chapter 2 Season 6. Let's move on to the next season. At number 7, and potentially surprisingly, is going to be Season 1. Yes, the first ever season of Chapter 2 was really fun for like the first month and then got painfully boring. I don't know in my life if I've ever seen a Fortnite season that was more hyped up than this one, right? You guys gotta remember, we couldn't play Fortnite for like 48 hours before this season came out. We were stuck in the black hole, and then they dropped this season and the hype was literally unparalleled. And at the beginning, it was really fun. You basically had the first time ever with a brand new fresh map, basically all new locations besides retail, salty, pleasant. A lot of the weapons got, fully new sounds, new reworks, new artwork with some brand new weapons. And they did add at the beginning some really cool mechanics. Of course, water and swimming was added, fishing, edit on release, people forget, was added in Chapter 2 Season 1. You had some, at the time, cool new items like the motorboat or the bandage bazooka. But after that, we got barely any content updates throughout the entire season, right? We got a harpoon gun, you got the Storm King LTM, and then the lightsabers, and then of course the Winterfest event, and that was basically all we got in Chapter 2 Season 1. You've got to remember, this was a long season. It launched in October 15th and then ended in February 19th, so that's what? All of October, all of November, all of December, all of January, and then basically half of February. That's almost a 5-month-long season, and there's just not enough content for a season that is that long, and that is why it's at the bottom of this list for me. It just got so boring towards the end. At number 6 is going to be Chapter 2 Season 8, and don't be fooled by it being this low on the list because, in fact, this isn't actually a bad season. I think just the rest of the Chapter 2 seasons are absolutely stacked. I think at this point, players were just ready to be done with Chapter 2, right? We had just come off of Chapter 2 Season 7, which was a great season, and then I don't think that this season on launch was that well received, at least from my memory, and that's honestly kind of unfortunate because I was actually a fan of the map changes, right? I liked that you had almost the kind of wind tunnels that came back from Season 9. Great for transporting the map. I know the whole sideways cube monster thing wasn't for everybody, but I think it was a pretty decent change to the game. These sideways weapons are kind of forgettable, but giving those, mid-game objectives besides just running around and killing people is pretty good when it's done right, and I think it was done relatively well here. You got the Venom and Carnage mythics. You've got stuff like the Marksman 6-shooter coming back. Chili Chug Splashes were added. The Shockwave Launcher, I remember coming back. That was a big deal. I also remember the Combat Assault Rifle introducing itself in this season. I don't really know how else to explain this season besides the fact that I think it's like a perfectly okay Fortnite season. I don't think there's anything about Chapter 2 Season 8 that like makes you want to come back to it. But at the same time, when I look back on gameplay in Chapter 2 Season 8, yeah, like it was okay, it was fun, but it's nowhere near my favorite in Chapter 2. And honestly, I think a lot of people are probably going to agree with me on that. Fantastic live event also. I totally forgot to mention that. At number 5 is going to be, well, Season 5. Yes, Chapter 2 Season 5 is one one of those Fortnite seasons that I think people totally forgot ever existed. It is, in my opinion, one of the most forgotten about Fortnite seasons. Coming off of Chapter 2, Season 4, I can't tell you guys how excited I was to play this season on launch, and unfortunately, it didn't live up to the expectations that I had coming from Chapter 2, Season 4, but it still did some pretty significant things for the game, right? You gotta remember, gold bars were added in this season. Gold bars are still used today. They're not my favorite mechanic, but nonetheless, an important addition to the game. And of course, you guys gotta remember, this season was basically another collab season. I hate to say it was a collab season, but it was basically themed around bounty hunters coming to the island, right? So you had a ton of collabs that came. One of those big ones was the Mandalorian. You got his jetpack and his sniper rifle, and exotics. Exotic weapons are now a core part of Fortnite, and they were all added in this season. Of course, the initial batch was the Boom Sniper, Nighthawk, Shadow Tracker, Storm Scout, and the Dub. And yes, while those aren't the best exotics, they're the first ones, so you can't really complain about them. Later on, we got the lever action shotgun that was added, the Hop Rock dualies. Unfortunately, Predator's cloaking device, that whole collab, what a total miss. And speaking of Predator's cloaking device, the new locations that were added in Chapter 2, Season 5 for me were just not it. Hunter's Haven, the Colossal Coliseum, was Stealthy Stronghold added in Chapter 2, Season 5 as well, right? They're just not great locations, and in the grand scheme of Fortnite, one's just totally forgettable. I didn't really care for the new sand biome. I didn't really care for sand tunneling, but if there's one thing I remember about Chapter 2, Season 5, I remember this season just genuinely being fun. Like, I don't remember there being a ton for me to, like, complain about. I loved going for exotics. I loved stacking up my gold and then spending $12.50 on a horrible exotic heavy sniper. And yeah, while it wasn't as good as its predecessor, Chapter 2, Season 4, it was a significant upgrade over Chapter 2, Season 6, and I would rather play Season 5 over Season 6 every day of the week. At number 4, I've got Season 3. Now look, the fact that this is at the number 4 spot on today's list just goes to show how strong Chapter 2 was, because I believe if you took Season 3 and put it in Chapter 5 or Chapter 6, it would be the best season in either of those chapters. That's genuinely how good I believe Chapter 2, Season 3 was, but it's only at the number 4 spot today. I feel like I have some pretty common thoughts about Chapter 2, Season 3. I feel like there was a lot of really bad things in this season, but I feel like the good totally outweighs the bad. And what I mean by that is, what was bad about Chapter 2, Season 3? Well, in my opinion, it was that the entire map was flooded for a good couple of weeks before it came back to being normal. Although it was a completely different change from anything we had ever seen, I was not a fan of it whatsoever. I hated fighting in the water all the time. You had marauders that were just painfully annoying and were just nuisances, were literally third party every single fight. What a disaster marauders were. The Aquaman collab was a total failure, right? I mean, Coral Castle, what a disaster of a location. And the pump shotgun was vaulted for the charge shotgun. Depending on who you are, that could be a positive or a negative thing. For me, I think it was a negative thing. I just love the pump shotgun. Not that the charge is bad. In fact, the charge can be better than the pump in some situations. I just find myself always gravitating towards the pump. But with all those bad things being said, there was a ton of really, really great things that we got in this season. First of all, we got Catty Corner with Kit. That was also the mythic shockwave launcher and his charge shotgun. One of the best dual weapon combos of all time. You got the Authority, which was basically kind of a different version of the Agency with Jules' drum gun and Jules' glider gun. You had the Fortilla with Ocean's bottomless chug jug and Ocean's burst assault rifle, right? Again, they're kind of piggybacking off of Chapter 2, Season 2, having a bunch of themed locations with themed characters that would drop multiple mythics. And you can't forget, one of the biggest and most important updates in Fortnite history, adding cars to the game, happened in Chapter 2, Season 3. What an important change to the game. Cars are still in the game today. Some people might argue they're a little bit overpowered, especially in zero build, right? But I feel like it was a matter of time before cars got introduced to Fortnite, and this was such an important change, a revolutionary change for the game. It needed to happen, and since it happened in Chapter 2, Season 3, that is a ton of bonus points, in my opinion, towards this season. Also, I will not forget about the customizable umbrella in the Battle Pass. That was amazing. I love that. And this season, I felt like just perfectly fit a summer theme, and like I said, yes, there were some bad things that happened in this season, but I feel like the good significantly outweigh the bad, and that is why it is at the middle part of this list today, guys. By no means a perfect season, but not a terrible one either. At number 3 is going to be Chapter 2, Season 7. This is one of my favorite Fortnite seasons of all time. I think it's because how much they lent into the theme. Even if you weren't a fan of aliens, you can embrace the fact that they went fully in. Every aspect of the game was built around the theme, right? Even every new weapon, the pulse rifle, right? It's kind of a futuristic assault rifle. The recon scanner, the railgun, Chimera's ray gun, literally a ray gun, UFOs, flying saucers everywhere. everywhere, which I'll get to later. The inflatable, alien nanites, the gravitron, the plasma cannon, the propifier, right? These are all weapons that fully fit this theme, and that's why I remember Chapter 2, Season 7 so much, because it wasn't, a half-done theme like Chapter 2, Season 3 was, in my opinion. It was fully alien. If you played this, you were playing an alien version of Fortnite. If you didn't like it, you're going to really hate this season, and if you did like it, you're going to love it like I did, especially the Mothership minigame. We will never see anything like that ever again in Fortnite history. What a cool addition to the game. Literally being abducted by aliens halfway through the game if you wanted to. You could avoid it if you didn't want to. Even in the Battle Pass, they did the same thing, right? You had Rick from Rick and Morty as the tier 100 skin, quote unquote. Kind of, this mad scientist to my knowledge. I remember the alien parasites on the ground that would latch onto your head. It's just what an unbelievable Fortnite season. And the only thing that keeps it back from me is the flying saucers, the UFOs. It's easy to be blocked by nostalgia and say, oh, these weren't that big of a deal when you had the railgun that could two-shot them. Yes, while that's true, UFOs were still painfully annoying and arguably even more annoying than mechs because they could fly, which made them even more difficult to take down. If UFOs weren't in this season, this would be in the conversation for the best Fortnite season of all time. And while the UFOs hold it back, a lot of the things added in this season were really fun to use. And while they might not be the best, I think this was an incredibly fun and good loot pool. I love Chapter 2, Season 7. At my number 2 spot today, guys, you probably knew it was going to be this high on the list. It is Chapter 2, Season 4. This was the first ever, fully collab season, the Marvel season, another season where they just totally delve into the theme for the entirety of the season. What a fantastic Fortnite season. Even if you're not a fan of Marvel, you can admit you probably had fun playing this season. This is not one of the best seasons in Chapter 2. It is one of the best seasons in Fortnite history. Even the new locations, the Stark Industries update, I believe is one of the best updates any Fortnite season has ever had. Pleasant Park being totally remodeled into Doom's Domain. And you got to remember, right, like previously to Chapter 2, Season 4, if you wanted a Marvel skin, you had to essentially buy it from the item shop. But now there's a Battle Pass, which almost, everybody buys the Battle Pass, let's be honest, and you could get a ton of Marvel skins for essentially free, right? For essentially just playing the game because you're going to make your V-Bucks back anyways. Thor, Groot, Iron Man. I mean, just what an unbelievable Battle Pass. It felt like every single week there was a new mythic superpower to play around with, right? Arcane Gauntlets, Mystical Bomb, the Bramble Shield, the Surfboard. The Stark Industries rifle was obviously added in this season. Iron Man's Unibeam, Iron Man's Repulsor Gauntlets, Thor's Mjolnir Strike, the Gorgers, which I never want to remember ever happened in Fortnite history, Wolverine Claws, Storm's Whirlwind Blast. Like the list just keeps going on and on. Black Panther's Kinetic Armor, which sucks by the way. The whole Halloween event, which brought with it Shadow Midas's Drum Gun, She-Hulk's Fist, the Witch Broom, Venom Smash and Grab, right? Literally, I can keep going with all the new things that were added in Chapter 2, Season 4. I literally want to make an entire video on why Stark Industries is one of the best locations and best updates in Fortnite history. This is one of the best seasons we've ever seen. It is fantastic. I don't think there's going to be a lot of argument there. So much fun. I miss this season so much, but it's not at the number 1 spot. I have a feeling you guys who know me will know what I'm going to put here. In my opinion, the best season in Chapter 2 and the best season in Fortnite history is Chapter 2, Season 2. This is an absolute masterclass in how to make a beautiful Fortnite season. Now look, I know there's complaints about this season. I know what people are going to say. It was only popular because it came out during, let's just say there was a little illness going around in the world and everybody was at home and had nothing to do besides play video games. And also the season got pushed back further and further and actually lasted 117 days, which is a long time for a Fortnite season. But I know you watching this video, yes, you were playing Fortnite with your buddies while you were in the middle of Zoom class, because I was doing the exact same thing in high school. The first time that we ever got like real bosses guarding locations around the map, the Rig with TNTina, the Grotto with Brutus, the Agency with Midas, the Shark with Sky, and them all dropping a bunch of mythic items, which still to this day are some of Fortnite's best items we have ever seen. Of course, I totally forgot about the yacht with Meowscles, which ended up becoming Deadpool's yacht, which would then turn into Deadpool's boss with his mythic hand cannons, which sucked. We had the introduction of henchmen. We had the introduction of shakedowns. This season did a spies theme so perfectly, right? And actually in the battle pass, making you pick a side, right? You had to pick Shadow or Ghost, and then your cosmetics would reflect that decision. I thought was a genius idea and really felt like you were, on one of the two teams. And to my knowledge, I don't think we've ever seen something like that ever again. You had the Choppa, right? Literal helicopters. It's just such an unbelievable Fortnite season. In my opinion, it is the best season of all time. I have never had more fun in my entire 7 years of playing Fortnite than I have when I was playing Chapter 2, Season 2 with my buddies every single night for hours. I think it's the best one of all time, and so that means certainly it's the best one in Chapter 2. Alrighty, folks, I hope you went on to enjoy this video. I'm sure this is going to be a controversial one, so let me know your thoughts on this ranking in the comment section down below, and let me know which chapters, seasons you would like me to rank next. With that all being said, I'll catch you guys in the next one. As always, peace.